let's talk about the believer's consciousness a little bit. The believer's consciousness is beyond the child's consciousness of unawareness. The believer's consciousness is aware of the worship worthiness of God. That there is God, the one and only, the all, the always, the is. The one that really is. Nothing else exists other than God. The ever-living, the ever-existing, the everlasting. There is only that one, the indestructible, the indefeatable, the invincible, the cause, the power. There is only that one that really exists. Before us, beyond us. There is the one beyond. Are you prepared to have that kind of level of awareness that whatever we see with, and our seeing of it is all made up. This world, as you look around you, is made up. Are you prepared to acknowledge this is a created world, you didn't create it, you're a created being, you didn't create yourself, you didn't create the world didn't create you. Are you prepared to say that everything here is created by a creator and has a creator, and the creator is incomparable with the created. The creator really exists. This is temporary. The creator really is significant. We are not significant. Nothing here is significant. Nothing here is special. We're not special. Are you prepared to acknowledge the creator and accept that the creator alone really is and is to be given excessive focus? Are you prepared to accept that? Are you prepared to do that? Are you prepared to surrender and experience that connection with your Creator, that nothing else really matters? Are you prepared to be humble? Are you prepared to realize you, the world, your happiness, your unhappiness is not anything for you to actually be interested in, as much as to be interested in God? And do you create the time every day to acknowledge that you're a created being in a created world? You have a Creator. Because of the Creator you are, you continue to be, and you will be beyond your death. Do you acknowledge that? Do you acknowledge the Creator as the one only, unique and supreme, beyond the creation, the actual, and nothing else is anything for us to give attention to? Do you make that time every day to really humble yourself? Or you're trying to do this so that you don't feel unhappy in the world? Or you're trying to do this so one day you'll feel happy? Are you trying to do this worship prayer thing as a way to get you to be happier in life, or not suffer too much in life? Or are you worshipping and praying because that is natural, to acknowledge God? It's all about God, it's not about us. The more you can forget about you and your life, and life itself is therapy. This is what is called worship therapy. Worship therapy, I'm telling you, worship therapy. I will release worship therapy as a therapy in psychology. You understand? Worship therapy. It's a therapy that you learn to surrender and release and forget about you and everything, and you focus beyond. It's a mark of human excellence. It's a mark of an advanced human being who's actually using the frontal lobe, who's surrendering. Are you prepared to actually surrender and focus beyond? Because this focusing beyond is going to eliminate the trances. It's going to eliminate you thinking that something and somebody is something to focus on in an excessive way, or you are to be focused on in an excessive way by other people. And something and somebody and or even you is to be given exclusive attention, or strong feeling is for something and somebody, including you. No, it's not for any of us. What happens when we just say, it's true, nobody needs to give me exclusive attention. I don't need anybody's exclusive attention, nor do I need to give anybody else exclusive attention. Exclusive attention is for God alone. Not my parents, not my children, not my spouse, not siblings, not anybody. Exclusive attention. Not problems, not desires, nothing. The one that is to be given exclusive attention. Excessive focus every day to create time to focus on God and become more and more aware. Who's prepared to, really worship God and do worship therapy and experience the benefit that comes from it. And then actually become aware of the worship worthiness of God. Become aware of the praiseworthiness of God. That yes, I am aware of the worship worthy of God. Because a believer, one who has a believer's consciousness, is aware of the worship worthiness of God? Are you aware of the worship worthiness of God? If you're not aware of the worship worthiness of God, you don't have a believer's consciousness. You're not aware. You are still in a level of unawareness. If you recognize there is only God to be worshipped and God is the worship worthy, and you choose to worship God, you are a believer. You have a believer's awareness. If you recognize that God alone is not only to be focused on in an excessive way and paid attention to in an exclusive way, only God is to be focused on in an excessive way and paid attention in an exclusive manner, nothing else. And you do that every day. You create this space. Do you create this space to say, this is my time for worship therapy. This is my time for worship. It's about God. I'm surrendering, submitting. I'm learning to forget about me. Or do you want to remember things about who hurt you and you did not get what you want and what you need? Do you want to remember all that all the time? Do you want to keep it going? What you believe you want? So we surrender. What a letting go. And what a release, what a healing to not be interested in anything and anybody. Because the ego is like, no, you must be interested in this and this person and this thing, and this person must be interested in you. No, nothing and nobody. It's freedom. Worship therapy. Freedom. We choose to actually become aware of the one that really exists beyond creation, the incomparable, the incomprehensible. But we know there is source energy. There is source. And source alone is to be focused on. Nothing else and nobody else. And source is the worship worthy, source is the praiseworthy, and we surrender willingly and happily in the worship of God, spending that time to become more and more aware of God and the worship worthiness of God and worshipping God and focusing on God. Nobody else, nothing else. See? Do you want to focus on God? No, I got these other things to focus on, Ashraf. Oh, I got these things to sort out. These things are what I'm upset about. I'm too upset about it. I have to do something about it. I tell you, nothing and nobody is anything for us to react to. God alone is for us to respond to. God alone is for us to focus on and respond to. Nothing and nobody matters. Nothing and nobody is anything for us to resist and react to. We focus on God. We go multidimensional beyond, and we connect there. That's an expansion of our levels of security, worship and prayer, worship and praise. We become aware of the worship worthiness and the praise worth. So are you aware of the worship worthiness of God is a question. To the degree that you are, you have a believer's consciousness. Are you aware of the praiseworthiness of God? To the degree that you are, you have a believer's consciousness. And of course, if you're aware of the worship worthiness of God, you will worship God. You'll love worshipping God. You'll enjoy worshipping God. And if you are aware of the praiseworthiness of God, you will willingly and happily choose to praise God. Now this is the first two. I am aware of the worship worthiness of God. Yes. I am aware of the praiseworthiness of God. Yes. And now what's 3 and 4? Are you aware of the trustworthiness of God? Are you aware that you right now can trust in God? That right now you can experience assurance as you trust in God? Do you know of the trustworthiness of God? Do you know that you are in the care of God? God is guarding. We are guarded. Are you aware of that? That you can experience assurance right now, security right now, that you don't have to worry about you. What can a created temporary being do for themselves? Or for anybody else? That which has created us, because of which we are, in whose care we are always in, that's all there is. We are because God is. God has created us, maintains us, and we are in the care of God who created us. Always in the care of God. In all ways, you see. We realize that right now we have oxygen to breathe. We have the earth spinning. The value of what we have right now, that which sustains our existence, we don't make anything equal to that. So what people do is they think, oh, but I need this man to love me. But if a man loves you or doesn't love you, you're still breathing, you're still alive, the earth is still spinning. It's not really as important as you think it is. But what we do, the insecure, is we actually make something and somebody something more valuable than what they are. We inflate their value. We think too much of the created world. We think too much of the created people. Everything that exists will one day cease to be. Human beings cannot do anything for us, to or against us. The flesh and bone. What can a being that one day will be pulverized, in the soil? What power does that person have whose body will one day be pulverized? Powder in the sand. What power does that person to benefit you or harm you? They have no power. So what happens is we actually start blowing created things out of proportion in terms of value, and we deny what we have right now. And when we recognize we have God guarding, we are okay, the earth is spinning, we are alive, there's oxygen to breathe, the value of what we have, we recognize we need nothing. We need nothing to change, we need nobody to change. We're okay right here, right now. We need nothing to change, that we don't need to be pleased to be okay. We don't need to be pleased right now to be okay. We don't need to be happy right now to be okay. We recognize that we are okay. We have oxygen to breathe. The earth is spinning. We recognize there's a sustaining power. That's what I was telling you about the movie. Don't just watch the movie for the story. You might not like the story, but watch the cinematography. Watch the costumes. Watch the acting. There's more. Have a bigger, wider, expanded awareness. Go beyond the part of you that's saying, no, this man, he must love me. He mustn't behave like this. This woman, this money, this job, I need it. It's not as valuable as what you already have. You have God guarding, the earth is spinning, you have oxygen to breathe. Celebrate that. Trust in God that the one that keeps you alive will maintain you. And celebrate that the one that has caused you to exist is also interested in the quality of your existence. Wake up. Wake up beyond the limited unbelief, disbelief. Go beyond the child. Go beyond and recognize there is the one that because of whom I am, in whose care always I'm in, the always available, unfailing, always with me, always interested in me, attentive to me, always with me and always for me. There is the one. I have that one. I don't need anybody or anything else. Nothing is needed to keep the earth spinning. Nothing is needed for me to breathe in this moment. Nothing is needed in this moment. I'm free now. I just want to be aware and recognize the value of having the sustaining power that is God. You see, worship therapy, the third one. Do you recognize that God is the trustworthy? Are you feeling cared for right now by God? Do you experience being cared for right now? Or are you thinking, no, that doesn't matter. When somebody cares for me, then I'll feel cared for. Do you feel the caring of God right now? If you do, you have a believer's consciousness. That was the third one. Trusting in God, feeling secure, feeling okay, knowing that you are assured right now. Do you experience assurance right now? Right now I'm assured. Right now I'm secure. Right now I'm at ease. I need nothing to be okay in this moment. I am okay. I am maintained in being okay. God is the one ensuring that I am okay. I am kept okay. I am okay. Everything is okay. Everything is created okay. I'm created okay. I am okay. I've been given worth by God. I don't have to get worth from anybody or anything to feel okay. And I don't need to get anything. So I have worth, innate worth given to me. I already have that. I don't have to get that. I have the sustaining power of God sustaining me. Can you see that? Can you be aware of that? This is worship therapy. This is worship therapy. It shifts you from the trances. It shifts you from the limited self, the child self. It takes you into the expanded multidimensional self. You are changing because of your level of awareness. It's shifting. The fourth one is, I am considered by God. That I am thankful to God right now. I'm pleased right now. I'm grateful right now. Right now I recognize that not only am I cared for by God, but right now I am considered by God. Not only am I cared for by God, I am considered by God. I told you, not only does God sustains us and cause us to be and continue to be, but God is interested in the quality of our experience in this world and the world beyond. God is interested in the quality of our experience. Are you aware of that? At the end of your arm is a hand. can you see that you're actually considered? That you have, two eyes placed in the right place with binocular vision? Do you recognize that in color? Do you recognize ears placed in the right place so that you can hear properly? Do you recognize you have joints and, bones and all sorts of things to allow you to move fluidly and easily, that you don't move like Frankenstein, all stiff and all that? You are, considered. Do you recognize there is blue sky, green leaves on a tree? Do you recognize you're considered? Do you recognize your eyes, these eyeballs have eyelids that have eyelashes? Do you recognize that? Do you recognize there's eyebrows above your eyes that actually give, beauty and serve a function? Do you understand that you have a nose with a bridge, not two holes in your throat to breathe, or gills? Do you recognize God has considered everything? There's a septum that holds your nose firm so that you can breathe. There's airways are clear to breathe. Do you recognize God has considered you? Are you aware that you're considered by God? Or are you turning to a man or a woman or a boss or something in the world for consideration? Do you experience being considered right here, right now? That you exist, is that valuable to you? That you live as a human being, is that valuable to you? That you have a body in the best of molds, is that valuable to you now to be pleased? No, I won't be pleased now, Ashraf. I can't be pleased now. I'll be pleased when I get what I want, and that's the only time I'll be pleased. I'll be, can you be pleased that you have existence and worth as a human being? You don't have to earn worth, you're given worth, you have value right here, right now. You have rights as you are. Can you accept that it's valuable? No, but that's not important, Ashraf. Money is important. That pieces of paper and there's coins, a job, some status, how people look at me, the amount of likes I get on Facebook, how people treat me, that's also important. Rubbish. Stinking trash, that's what it is. Are you aware that you have the faculties that you have, the ability to reason, feeling, affect, as a human being, memory, capacities, all that? Are you aware of that you have that, and that you have been considered, and the value of that to you? Are you aware of that? You have smell and taste, the foods that you eat with different textures and flavors. That you don't just eat one bland cereal every day. You can have nuts, crunchy, you can have whatever you want, something. There is so much of foods and different flavors. Are you aware of how God has considered us? Are you aware of how considered we are? No, I'm not happy. I want more of somebody. They don't love me. Is that on your mind? Are you waking up to actually recognize what you have? Become aware of, I am considered by God. Who cares whether somebody else considers me or not? What is the value of somebody else's consideration really? God's consideration is the only real consideration, and we have that. You have the ability to worship, you have the ability to pray, you have the ability to be godly. There's good for you in this world. There's natural living of satisfaction and fulfillment for us in this world and the world beyond. We have the ability to claim it, to receive it. What more you want to feel pleased? No, I can't feel pleased now because So, is that you? Crybaby. You understand? Or the grown-up that realizes I want to watch the movie without just the storyline, with something else. There's a more perception to begin to see. This is worship therapy. Having a believer's consciousness. That is the fourth. I am aware that I am considered by God. The third was, I am aware that I am cared for by God. Basically, cared for by God means God is sustaining me. I am being sustained. I can recognize I'm being sustained. Everything that is required for me to be alive, I already have. I am already alive. I don't have to split the earth on the axis. I don't have to cause air for me to breathe. Right now, nothing is needed for me to live. I am living. I'm sustained in my living. And furthermore, not only is God the causative power causing me to be and sustaining my existence, but the quality of my life is important. I'm considered by God. God supports my satisfaction. I'm supported in my satisfaction. See? That's 3 and 4. 1 and 2 was worship and praise. The worship worthiness, the praiseworthiness. 3 and 4, the trustworthiness and the thankworthiness of God. 5, 6 and 7, what are they? The first 4 is all about security. 5 and 6 is about selffulness. First 4 is about God's relating to us, primarily. That there is God, and we are related to by God. And we want to be aware of God's relating to us. See, security is about recognizing the innate worth of God and the innate value of God. Acknowledging it, appreciating it every day. And also, not only the innate worth of God, valuing it, but God's valuing of us, recognizing and appreciating God's valuing of us. This is what worship therapy is about. Can you do that as an advanced human being in search of human excellence, on the path of human excellence, using your frontal lobe, going beyond who you've been, developing yourself spiritually like this, is the first 4. God's relating to you. That God is the one that is our championer. God is the one that is our encourager. There is no challenger. There is no, discourager. There is only the one that is giving. There is no one that is withholding. You understand? There is no oppositional, threatening power. There's only one that is sustaining and supporting. Are you becoming aware beyond all your stories about people can hurt me and harm me and things can make me feel better and I'll feel okay when and if and all that sort of thing? So, are you aware of the innate value of God, and are you aware of the value of God's relating to us? God's valuing of us, becoming more and more aware, is from you. You've got to open up and see more and be more interested. You've got to ask yourself, what is the personality of mine up to? Instead of that, what is my personality thinking about the worship of God, the praise of God, the trusting in God, the thanking in God? What's my personality's view about that? What's my personality more interested in? Giving exclusive focus to, excessive attention to, strong feeling to. What is my personality up to? Because I, the adult today, can actually recognize the importance of security in worship therapy and becoming aware of God, the one and only, the one that really is. Nothing else really exists, because of which we are and we continue to be the one to relate to. There is none other. We don't really exist. We are secondary beings in a secondary world. The Creator is primary. The Creator is beyond. The energy that has brought forth this world is beyond this world. God is not in this world. God cannot be in what God created. This world cannot be compared to God. God is the one exceptional, outstanding, extraordinary, the truly remarkable, the exalted in glory, beyond our level. As much as we become aware of the greatness of God, there's always a greater greatness to be aware of. As much as we become aware of the gracious nature of God, there's a greater graciousness for us to be aware of, that we can be in awe of God, the one alone that is awesome. It's got nothing to do with anything else. There's no comparison. This is just going directly, multidimensionally connected. So the first 4 of the believer's consciousness, it's all about God, the greatness, the first 2, and God's relating to us, the valuing of God to us, caring and considerate. Now we move on to a blending of our relating to ourselves and God as God relates to us as we relate to ourselves. So what is the 5th spiritual practice? Is invoking the forgiveness of God, invoking the protection of God, invoking God's protection from ourselves. So 5 and 6 is about selffulness. First 4 was about security. 5 and 6 is about selffulness. It's about our relationship with ourselves. And the believer is aware that we have operated in the way in the past, now, and even in the future, in a way to limit ourselves. Through our personality, through our ego, we have limited ourselves. We are limiting ourselves, and in all likelihood we will limit ourselves to some degree or another going forward. Maybe less and less, but to some degree we will. That we are, basically, a truly aware person A person that is truly conscious, a person on a path to human excellence, is a progressive person. And a progressive person, so a believer is progressive. Are you progressive? And progressive means, do you speak the truth? That you maintain insecurity and you keep yourself from security. You maintain being a beggar through the trance instead of supporting security and supporting non-neediness. You maintain being a beggar. Do you admit that? Do you accept the truth without shaming yourself, blaming yourself, without feeling bad, without feeling guilty and unworthy, but just speaking the truth that I have in the past and I am now and to some degree in the future, I will maintain neediness, being a beggar. I will maintain the belief in need to some degree or another. I will deprive myself to some degree or another security. I won't let myself feel as good as I can let myself feel. I've done that. I'm doing that. I want to stop doing that, but I'm doing that. And I've been doing that. That's where we start off, until you get to a place of security and expanding security. You say that I have kept myself from security, non-neediness, freedom. I've kept myself. It wasn't anybody or anything. It's my limited trances. It's my personality. It's the way I've lived all my life, maintaining the current level of insecurity, promoting the current level of insecurity. Secondly, I keep myself powerless instead of powerful. I keep myself as an addict instead of an adult. I keep myself from operating powerfully as an adult. I don't let myself be a benefit to me, my body, and my life. I don't do that. I don't allow myself to do that. I don't allow myself to easily do that. I'm not for nurturing myself. I'm for negating myself. I'm not for nurturing my life. I'm into neglecting my life to some degree or another. It's true. I've done that, I'm doing that, I can see it, it's true. And also, I go forward in my life from the past, depriving myself. I've deprived myself. I'm into these trances of self-deprivation. And I've deprived myself in the past now, and I probably do it going forward to some degree or another. I've kept myself from being a victor, I've kept myself being a victim. I've kept myself from being a vicegerent, you see. At these three levels, security, selffulness, and satisfaction, basically what we're saying is I've kept myself powerless spiritually. I've kept myself powerless personally. And I've kept myself powerless creatively. I have, to some degree or another, kept myself from spiritual power, personal power, and creative power. And we speak the truth without guilt, shame, or unworthiness, but with sorrow, regret, and remorse. To say, I'm not happy that I've done that. This is being progressive. Are you progressive? Do you look at the role that you play in your life to hold yourself back? Are you progressive? See? Are you really progressive? This is the question. Do you admit your role in your life in maintaining neediness and insecurity, powerlessness, and relating poorly to yourself, your body, and your life, and victimhood, depriving yourself? Do you admit that? God doesn't want you to be perfect. God doesn't need you to be perfect. Only God is perfect. But God wants you to be honest. This is advanced human being. This is operating as a humane human being. This is us speaking the truth. This is us being conscious. Remember, at every level you recognize God is the worship-worthy, God is the praiseworthy, God is the trustworthy, God is the thank-worthy. And now we realize that God is the invoke-worthy, that we invoke God's protection from ourselves, that God is the one all-caring and compassionate, and God is the one all-considerate and merciful, that even though we are in error, when we sincerely acknowledge that we are in error and are not for the self-created horrors in this world and the self-created hell of the next, if we're saying that we want to be protected from what we put out, because this is a law, what you give out is what you get back. For every choice you make, there are consequences. If we've maintained low-frequency vibration, we will create low-frequency experiences. So if you know that, you feel sorry about that, and you want to experience being protected, if you want to have your negativity negated through forgiveness, if you want to have the effects of your negativity neutralized through pardon, you can invoke it. You can say, God is truly loving, freely caring, freely considerate, and freely compassionate. This is the level of love that God has for us. Become aware. This is not about typical religious shaming and guilt and running yourself down from an ego way. This is just speaking the truth and allowing yourself to claim for you in this world and the world beyond the protection that exists, that you can be as you are, but attending to yourself, and while you are, you're protected from the effects of having been the way you are. God is available to protect you like that. Are you rejoicing that? Are you aware of that? The believer, who has a believer's consciousness, is aware that God is the invoke worthy, that God can protect me through my invoking the forgiveness of God from the effects of my negativity and the effects of my negativity in this world through my life, all the way through my death and beyond. Are you having a believer's consciousness? Are you progressive? Are you speaking this truth? Are you feeling remorse? Are you rejoicing the compassion? Do you recognize that you have God to protect you? Do you desire the protection of God from the effects of your own negativity in this world and the world beyond? Do you happily claim that protection, that forgiveness, that pardon that's there? Are you rejoicing that? Are you feeling good about that? Are you willing to actually repent, change in your ways? Are you willing to make things and people something to react to? Are you prepared to stop reacting to people and things, making them something to be controlled by? Are you willing to relax, ease up? Are you willing to not lose power to people and things and experiences? You see, that's repentance. I'm willing to say, God, I have been in error, associating partners with you, making something in the world, something to feel strongly about, but I'm willing to stop that. I'm willing to release. See, that takes us to the sixth spiritual practice and what that means in terms of a believer's consciousness. And what is that? That is, I am not only progressive, but choosing to move forward powerfully. I'm choosing to handle situations powerfully, patiently, persevering, powerfully progressing. That's the relating that a true believer has with their lives. How do they operate? How do they act? How do they interact? So we want to act and interact peacefully, act and interact powerfully, act and interact patiently. That's what it means. Non-resistantly, non-reactively. I've explained this to you in detail. I'm not going to go into it again. Suffice it to say, at this point, we let what is be, we let it continue to be. We realize that it doesn't matter the way things are. We don't need to change anything. We don't need to change anybody. We don't need to change ourselves. We don't need to be pleased right here, right now, to be okay. We realize that we are okay in situations that are not pleasing. We deal with situations that are not pleasing and dissatisfying without projecting our power onto it. We realize that we are secure, and what we have right now with God sustaining us and God caring for us and considering us is more important than our unhappiness. We're not going to be distracted and disturbed by our unhappiness. We're not going to get distracted and disturbed by our happiness. Distracted by happiness, disturbed by unhappiness. Disturbed by displeasure, discomfort, disappointment. No. We're not going to be disturbed by and distracted by being pleased and comfortable and all that sort of thing. That we know that no matter what is going on, it's okay that it is, it's okay that it continues to be. We're non-resistant, we're non-reactive. We're more interested in multidimensionally flowing energy, feeling secure, knowing that God is with us and God is for us, knowing that right here, right now, we have God caring for us. And the caring of God is available for us, and we can invoke God's favors upon us. So this is where in step number 6, in step number 6, we can practice patience, which is our power, that we're not resisting, reacting. We can recognize that God is the caretaker. God will handle it for us. We don't have to get God to change anything. We don't have to change anything. We can just be patient and peaceful. Prior to this, we recognize that God is the one, our protector, protects us from our own failings, the effects of our own failings. And now we're recognizing that we've been progressive in invoking the protection of God, speaking the truth about it, and now we are powerful, we are free. We invoke the forgiveness first, now we invoke the freedom with God. You see, freedom is very important. Invoking freedom with God. That's patience. And we say, God, we choose to be patient in this situation. We choose to be allowing. We choose to let it be, let it continue to be. We're not interested in what is. We're not interested in trying to change what is. We're more interested in feeling secure while what is. We're more interested in recognizing that God is available to support us in having what we want in this moment, rather than trying to get God to change what we don't want, rather than trying to solve a problem. We can be interested in focusing on alternate possibilities and claiming alternate possibilities. We're more into possibility supporting rather than problem solving. So that is 6. The 6th spiritual practice. I am patient. I am powerful. I am allowing. I can open up and have God take care of me, take care of things for me. Before this was compassion. God is the compassionate championer. You understand? So now we think God is the caretaking of the situation. God will take care of it. Don't worry about it. I release into the care of God. I'm patient. I'm allowing. Do you have that consciousness of a believer, allower of what is to be, allowing it to continue to be, focusing more on security than avoiding dissatisfaction, and then choosing to go to the 7th and final spiritual practice of, worship therapy, which is begin to focus on what would you prefer to have the experience of. What is desirable? Instead of focusing on what is undesirable and trying to change it, in step 6 we go beyond that, and it prepares us to go into step 7, where we can be into our creative power. The first 4 steps of worship therapy is really about our security. The next 2 is about our selffulness. And the last one is about our satisfaction. The first 4, I am aware that God is the worship-worthy. God is the praiseworthy. God is the trustworthy. God is the thankworthy. That is the first 4. Then that's recognizing our relationship with God. God's relating to us. Then we move on to the next 2, 5 and 6. Our relationship with ourselves. We recognize that we are the ones actually having held us back for our own security, our own selffulness and satisfaction. But even though God is available, God still relates to us while we are in error, and we recognize that God truly is the freely creating of us, freely loving of us, and freely supporting and freely protecting of us. That's God's relationship to us, even though we have been in error. If we are sincere and remorseful, we can experience being protected and secure. As we walk through the days of this world, all through our death and beyond, we can live in the forgiveness of God, in the protection of God. That is the first part of selffulness, which is step number 5. The second part of selffulness, which is step number 6, or practice number 6, is patience. I choose to relate to what's going on without resistance and reaction, without losing power to it, without being controlled by it. God is my caretaker. You see, God is compassion before this. God is my caretaker. And now we're moving forward to God is my cherisher. God wants me not only to be, but to be satisfied and fulfilled. And there is God's grace upon me. Potentials and possibilities exist for me to become aware of and to experience. There is for me to recognize alternate potentials to be and become and to live and experience. There is for me to become aware of that. Multidimensionally, supraconsciously, alternative realities. There is alternative realities for me to become aware of. This is what we can energize. And whatever we energize in our awareness that already exists, for us to energize it, it's materialized for us. How cool is that? Now this is creative power. Creative power is about God being the cherisher. God being the one who has granted us favors of fulfillment. And as we energize them, as we appreciate them, as we receive them, God materializes them for us. We get to live what we energize. It's materialized for us, the fulfillment, the satisfaction. So again, first 4 is about security. Next 2 is about selffulness, and the last one is about satisfaction. And if you go through it, it's the first one, God is the creator, God is the cause. The third one, God is the carer. The fourth one, God is the considerate. The fifth one, God is the compassionate. The sixth one, God is the caretaker. And the seventh one, God is the cherisher and championer. Right through, God is our championer. See, for our security, for our satisfaction, given us the power to live, to apply ourselves in this world without trying to control anything and anybody, just acknowledging the truth about God, acknowledging where we are in error, making the corrections, which is being patient and invoking forgiveness, and claiming what we want, seeing alternative realities of being and becoming, living and experiencing in the imagination. These already exist, by the way. They're already granted by God, but we receive it. So the seventh and final practice is really about receiving. Are you a receiver of God's good in this world and the world beyond? Are you really into appreciating alternate realities of ease, joy and enjoyment for you, satisfaction and fulfillment beyond what you're currently experiencing? There is beyond what are you open to becoming aware of it and experiencing beyond what you're currently living? Notice all this is shifts in consciousness. Worship therapy is about you growing up beyond being a child into an adult using the frontal lobe and actually supporting this transformation. And as you then live like this from a higher level of consciousness, you are transformed and your life is changed. So this is really, worship therapy in a nutshell, and I will share more about this going forward. So, I think what I'll just say in closing is that the more we can recognize God and God's relating to us, the more we can recognize God as valuable and God's valuing of us, the more we can value the innate value of God, and the more we can value God's valuing of us, the more we will be able to value ourselves, the value that we are to ourselves, and the value that our bodies are to us, and the value that our life is and our afterlife is, and the experiences in our life and afterlife. That means if you don't come right with worship and praise, trust and thanks, you don't come right, you can't really then begin to see that you haven't cared for yourself, your body and your life, that you are not operating in a way supporting security, selffulness and satisfaction. You don't get the first four right, you can't get to an honest, sincere, humble experience of invoking forgiveness, of looking at your relationship with yourself. How have I operated? Does my personality support being more secure, selfful and satisfied or not? Am I aware of my own value? Am I valuing myself, having a vision for myself? Am I aware of my own value of my body? Do I have a vision for my body? Is there an awareness of my life and valuing of my life and having a vision for my life? Is there an awareness of being aware of my afterlife and having a vision for my afterlife? Basically, am I really caring for me? Am I really caring for my body? Am I really caring for my life and afterlife? The more you can be caring of yourself, it implies the more you can experience the caring of God. See? So this is really about an awareness and an experience, and aware that you are actually cared for and considered, and experiencing being cared for and considered by God, and knowing how valuable you are to God, for God to value you and consider you and care for you. And once you know that God is valuing you and how valuable you are to God, you will start valuing you. And when you know how valuable your body is, you'll start valuing it. And when you know how valuable your life is, you'll start valuing it. And when you know how valuable your afterlife is, you'll start valuing. Meaning, if you're not aware of the value that you are, if you're not aware of the value that your body is, if you're not aware of the value that your life is and your afterlife is and experiences are, if you're not aware of that, you can't value. And that goes back to, are you aware of the innate value of God, and actually do you value the innate value of God? Are you aware of the valuing of God, and do you value that? So the more you become conscious aware, beyond your current level of awareness, of God's innate value, the worthiness of God to be worshipped, God the Creator, the more you become aware of God's let's say championing of us, God's valuing of us, and you value God's valuing of you. It's a feeling, it's an experience. I'm aware and I'm experiencing. This is the believer's consciousness. The believer is actually aware and experiencing the value of God, and valuing, experiencing the value of God. And the believer's consciousness, the believer is aware of and experiencing God's valuing of them, and aware of God's valuing of them, and valuing God's valuing of them. See? And then the believer can just then actually value themselves, be aware of their own value, be aware of the value of their body, be aware of the value of their lives and afterlives, and actually value it. So that's where I'm going to stop today, and we will continue next week about this, and we'll continue with prayer level 170 next week.